Thank you, Mr. Tanadar, and I recognize Mr. Ezell for his 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for being here today. Recently, documents were obtained under the Freedom of Information Act by Americans for Prosperity regarding DHS Disinformation Governance Board, which was stood up by the Biden administration and was almost immediately shut down due to massive public pushback. Behind me today are two of these documents. Well, besides the title, there isn't much that we can learn from these documents. Mr. Kahagma, help me fill in some of the words on this blank page. What authorities does DHS believe it has to counter misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation?
Thank you, Representative, for the question. DHS believes its authorities that authorize its specific mission use cases provides us the authority to provide correct, accurate information in response to false information that may directly impact the operations of the department.
Also behind me, as well, is a completely redacted memo titled Ukraine MDM Playbook. Do you think DHS has the authority to control public conversations on foreign wars? If so, where do you believe this is under their mission?
Thank you for the question, Congressman. Could you please repeat the question?
Do you think DHS has the authority to control public conversations on foreign wars?
No, DHS does not have that authority. We do not monitor the content of American speech.
Very good. And suppressing domestic speech included in memos, is suppressing domestic speech included in the memo strategy?
I'm sorry?
Is suppressing domestic speech included in the memo's strategy?
I'm not familiar with the memo that you're referencing.
The Homeland Security Advisory Committee recommended to DHS that it should, quote, bring disinformation to the attention of platforms hosting these falsehoods, end quote. I ask that DHS shares the committee their communications with these platforms on this topic. Is that something you can provide?
Respectfully, Congressman, I would have to defer to our Office of Legislative Affairs, who I believe is already in contact with the committee staff about document production and anything else that can be shared, but we'd be happy to.
Thank you very much. Ms. Harrington, does CISA have any plans to combat MDM during the 2024 election?
Representative, respectfully, CISA will continue doing the work that it's currently doing, which is essentially amplifying election official voices. We have a rumor control page up on CISA.gov, and we also are putting out literacy publications so the American people can spot disinformation tactics and learn about the tactics that foreign adversaries are using to essentially spread disinformation.
Thank you. Recently, the director of CISA testified before Congress that, quote, the most critical infrastructure in our cognitive infrastructure, building that resilience to misinformation and disinformation, I think is incredibly important. I want to repeat that again. The director of CISA testified before Congress, and I quote, the most critical infrastructure is our cognitive infrastructure. Building that resilience to misinformation and disinformation, I think is incredibly important, end quote. I look at CISA's website and cognitive infrastructure is not listed as a sector of CISA is tasked with protecting. What does cognitive infrastructure mean?
Representative, in executing our mission, we are guided by the definition of critical infrastructure in Presidential Policy Directive 21. That is, the U.S. government determines critical infrastructure by that PPD 21, and there are 16 critical infrastructure sectors that are considered vital to the United States, includes their assets, systems, and networks, whether physical or virtual, that are so important that their incapacitation or destruction would have a debilitating effect on security, national economic security, national public health or safety, or any combination thereof.
Again, what does cognitive infrastructure mean? I don't get it.
Representative, respectfully, that is how we execute our mission with the definition of critical infrastructure defined in PPD 21.
Do you think that DHS has this authority?
Our authorities are outlined in PPD 21.
Have you discussed the cognitive infrastructure with Director Easterly?
Representative, again, critical infrastructure is defined in PPD 21. It's got the 16 sectors of which are the sectors which make up critical infrastructure of the United States.
I'm concerned that we continue to find examples that seem clear that the Biden administration is weaponizing the federal government against its citizens. These agencies are out of control, and this committee will not stop until we hold folks accountable for that. And for Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentleman